And now for something completely different. Here are 19 reasons to watch Sleepwalkers. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is a place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And we're still making our way chronologically through the movies and adaptations of Stephen King's works. And as you know from the intro, this time we're up to 1992's Sleepwalkers, which is a quite batshit entry into this King canon of work. And I'm very excited to talk to you about it. But first, a couple of quick plugs. So everything you need to know when it comes to plugs is in the description. Links to my newsletter, Stephen King quiz book, my published fiction, the Constant Writers podcast, and my Letterboxd profile. If you can support any of those, that would be great. The links are there for you to click, but otherwise, I'm very happy that you're here. So let's get back to talking about Sleepwalkers. So as I said, I'm very excited to talk about this one. I'm conscious that objectively it is not a good movie, and yet it is also one of the best movies I have ever seen. It's available to stream in the US on Pluto, and it's also available at the time of recording to buy or rent in loads of places, including YouTube. Yes, you should pay money for it. I definitely believe that, and I'm going to tell you why with these 19 reasons. As always, any spoilery reasons, things that might ruin a first-time watch, will be clustered behind a spoiler alert, so you can bail at that point if you need to. And the timings for those are in the description as well, so if you need to jump around, you can even skip the spoilery bits and go straight to the outro once you're done if you want to hear me say bye. Conscious I'm rambling now, and I know some of you don't like me rambling, so let's get into it. Here are 19 reasons to watch the quite magnificent piece of cinema that is Sleepwalkers. Okay, so my takeaway reason, I'm simply going to read the description of this film that's on the Wikipedia page, and, well, you'll be able to make a judgment from it, so bear with me. Charles Brady and his mother/lover Mary are sleepwalkers, nomadic shape-shifting energy vampires who feed off the life force of virgin women. Though they normally maintain a human form, they can transform into human-sized bipedal werecats, their natural form, at will. They have powers of both telekinesis and illusion. Domestic cats are their only weakness, and the two species are mutually hostile. Cats, domestic cats that is, can see through their illusions and violently attack them, inflicting severe to fatal wounds on them with their claws and teeth. So, we've got werecats, whose enemy is cats. We've got a guy whose mother/lover is the same person. We've got these beings that feed off virgin women, and yes, it is crazy. And that's just the description of it. If that doesn't get you hooked, I don't know what will. So interestingly, this is actually the first thing King wrote specifically for the screen. It's not an adaptation of a short story or a novel or anything like that. No, he just wrote this absolutely mental batshit screenplay and managed to get it made. So who helped him get it made? The very well noted, sensible, down-to-earth director Mick Garris, who has never previously done anything pulpy, psychotronic, or just plain weird at all, and never did after this, obviously. This was also the first time that this dream duo of Garris and King worked together. So, I mean, I've covered the hook of this in reason 1. As for the plot, I mean, there isn't a plot, really, but just settle in and go with it. You'll have a great time.
Your mother's gonna want to know some rubbing went on out here.
Me too, Charles.
So for me, we know we're in for a treat right from before the credits even roll. We get this excerpt from the fictional Encyclopedia of Arcane Knowledge, which is something that Garris came up with and inserted to try and give us some backstory. Yeah, lol. This encyclopedia, among other things, claims that the Sleepwalkers are probably the source of the vampire legend. So yeah, not vampires first, Sleepwalkers, and people got the idea for vampires from these werecats. Bold claims. So the cast in this one is a fun one as well. Our lead girl, final girl, hero, whatever you want to call her, Tanya, is played by Madchen Amick, fresh off the success of Twin Peaks in the early 90s. And our lead villain is played by Brian Krause, who weirdly looks a lot like a guy I went to school with, although I have no idea if that particular guy was sleeping with his own mother. However, it's the extended list where this cast really gets fun. So we get Ron Perlman as this wild, angry police officer who gives a suitably Ron Perlman over-the-top performance. And we also get Glenn Shaddix as the English teacher, and yeah, his offering is full of in-your-face, campy horror. Both are brilliant.
I suggest that next time you keep your hands to yourself, Mr. Crawford.
And then, gloriously, we get a Stephen King cameo. He's the cemetery keeper, and yeah, he's on screen for actually quite a long time, and I really enjoy it.
Buddy.
Yeah?
Listen, it's not my fault if every horny kid and weirdo pervert comes in here. I lock this place up. I don't need this action.
Okay, don't talk to me. Talk to the sheriff.
It's also worth noting that other horror folk, Toby Hooper, Clive Baker, John Landis, and Joe Dante also get extra roles in this as lab technicians, police type crew guys. They're all terrible, and it's great to see them on screen. Oh, and we also get Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, in an uncredited appearance right at the very start of the film, where he is rocking some serious shades and an even better mustache. Now, in a strange move for a guy who generally seems to do quite sensible films, the soundtrack for this is by Nicholas Pike, and the soundtrack includes a quite excellent needle drop from Extreme at one point as well. Remember Extreme? Early 90s? No, I didn't think you would. They were good. Check them out. So lastly, before spoilers, Variety called Sleepwalkers, and I quote, an idiotic horror potboiler. And having watched this again to prepare for this video, I can agree, and also strongly disagree. Yes, the acting is over the top. Yes, the script is pretty bad. Yes, the story just goes absolutely wild, particularly in the latter part of it. And yes, objectively it is not a very good film. And yet, it's some of the best fun I've ever had watching anything. And, well, I think you'll enjoy it just as much as I do. And it's got one of the most iconic deliveries of a what the fuck that I've ever seen.
What the fuck?
Okay, we've reached the point where from here onwards, any of the reasons I'm going through and stuff that I'm showing you might ruin a first time watch. So if you want to keep that joyous first experience of Sleepwalkers as joyful as possible, then you should probably bail here right now. Didn't say that very well, did I? You should probably get out now, or you can use the little description below to skip to the outro, and I will see you again soon. But otherwise, if you're staying with me to the end, then do stick around, because I've got few more reasons for you to watch Sleepwalkers coming right up. Okay, we already established there's no book to compare this to, so let's just use the next few reasons to celebrate some of the more wild moments of this film. Starting off with, I mean, where else would you see a cop getting stabbed in the back with an ear of corn, followed by the line, no vegetables, no dessert, that's the rules. It's in Sleepwalkers.
There's blood everywhere!
No vegetables, no dessert. Those are the rules.
Oh, and how about the 2 police cars that get blown up with just a single bullet each time? Good shooting, Mrs. Brady. Now you remember the English teacher I mentioned earlier. So in class, we see him telling one of his pupils that he should keep his hands to himself.
I suggest that next time you keep your hands to yourself, Mr. Crawford.
And that comes back to haunt him when Charles rips off his own hand and hands it back to him.
People really should learn to keep their hands to themselves. Here's yours.
If you're looking for gore, then the moment where Tanya takes out Charles's eye with a corkscrew is bloody, brutal, and brilliant.
My mother's gonna kill me!
But my favourite moment in this film, and possibly in cinema in general, at least one of them, is where Tanya's dad gets hit in the face by Charles's mum, and he sort of staggers a bit, throws himself into a lamp, and dies. I mean, come on. As for my favourite line in this crazy film, it's gotta be the new form of cuisine that you didn't even know existed.
Cop kebab!
So I like to cover links to other King works, and there's quite a few here. Obviously, King himself wrote The Thing, and we saw his cameo earlier, and Toby Hooper, who is also in that cameo round, he did the original Salem's Lot in 1979. Clive Barker, who's also one of those horror guys who cameos, he and King both have stories adapted in Quicksilver Highway, which we will come to later on. Then, of course, there's Mick Garris, who would later go on to do the 1994 miniseries of The Stand. He did the Desperation miniseries, he did the Shining miniseries, he did Bag of Bones, and his wife Cynthia is in this, and she's in most of those other things as well. And then, lastly, among the cast and crew, we've got Ron Perlman, who would also go on to reprise his role of a crazy psycho cop in Desperation. And then a couple of things that happen in the story itself have nods to the world of King. We've got Charles's mum telling him to be dim, which is not being stupid, but it's making himself invisible. That's a bit of a Dark Tower thing. If you want more on the Dark Tower, check out my guide to the Dark Tower. And we also hear the police chief asking his dispatcher to get help sent from Castle Rock, which of course is a King town. And I've got a guide to Castle Rock as well. God, they were shameless plugs, weren't they? Sorry about that. So lastly, I actually have one gripe with this film, and that is that it pitches cats, normal cats, as the hero.
It might happen. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
I mean, yeah, right. As if a cat would do something that selfless and save humans rather than just sodding off and doing whatever it is they want to do. All that aside, Sleepwalkers is a campy, crazy classic, and that's about it. End of. You should watch it. So there we go, my 19 reasons for you to watch Sleepwalkers. Let me know what you think of this wild film in the comments. Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it off the back of this video? Can you see where I'm coming from? Am I completely crazy? What do you think? Let me know. I think it's wonderful. I had a great time watching it every single time I've watched it, and I will gladly watch it again. Might even go and watch it right now. Who knows? As ever, there's stuff in the description that you can check out if you want to, so links to my newsletter, to my fiction that I've published, to my Stephen King quiz book, to the Constant Writers podcast, which you can check out on this channel, and links to my Letterboxd profile, so come and say hi over there, swap movie reviews with me. And of course I'm on Instagram as well, at Dave Musson. Come and tell me what you think of Sleepwalkers, as long as it's positive stuff, because if you tell me you don't like Sleepwalkers, I'm not going to read your message. Let's be honest. Only kidding, I will read it. I just won't reply to it. Come back next time because, well, next time it's this month's book special.